So I wanted to take you through a little bit of the lesson for this week because it's going to culminate in you writing your first paper for the class, which is called a summary response paper. So I wanted to, in addition to simply assigning you the reading, I wanted to go over a few key points from that reading. So I'm going to be referring to the Allyn Bacon text, chapter 5, starting on page 82. And I just want to point out a few things and explain what I'd like you to do with the text this week. So the chapter is called Reading Rhetorically, the Writer is Strong Reader. In this case, you're the writer. And the main point on the first page, on page 82, is this whole idea about reading with the grain of the text. And that's the mode that you should be in as a reader when you're trying to summarize. So I wanted to just go over a few of those sentences with you. Starting in the second paragraph on page 82, the second sentence. When you read with the grain of a text, you see the world through its author's perspective, open yourself to the author's argument, apply the text insights to new context, and connect its ideas to your own experiences and personal knowledge. When you read against the grain of the text, you resist it by questioning its points, raising doubts, analyzing the limits of its perspective, or even refuting its argument. We say that readers read rhetorically when they are aware of the effect a text is intended to have on them. Okay? So, those are some points to understand what it means to read rhetorically, what it means to read with the grain, and what it means to read against the grain. On page 83, there's a small assignment that asks you to respond, to read an essay in the chapter, and then to respond to it. And we're going to do that as a discussion board posting. 84 talks about some challenges that face all of us when we're trying to tackle a text as a writer. And these are some things that typically can pose difficulties for people, but they're not things that you can't overcome. So they list 4 things: vocabulary, unfamiliar rhetorical context, unfamiliar genre, and lack of background knowledge. You may recognize yourself in some or all of those challenges. All it means is that you have to understand what it is that's making it difficult for you to get through a reading and figure out what it is you need to do to work on in general, not just with that text, but in general to make it more comfortable for you. So sometimes you need to look things up. And sometimes it's just a question also of a little bit of experience. And as you read more for college, you will become more familiar with the kinds of text that you are facing. Okay. What else? Page 87. Reading with the grain is the main strategy you use when you summarize a text, but it comes into play also when you develop a strong response. Okay, so that's the paper, a summary and a response. When making with the grain points, you support the author's thesis with your own arguments and examples, or apply and extend the author's argument in new ways. You know, and you've already had a little bit of practice with this in some of our discussion board conversations where you have to comment on one of your classmates' responses, and you guys have done that where you you support the author's thesis and you apply and extend the author's argument. When you read against the grain, you question and perhaps even rebut the author's ideas. You are a resistant reader who asks unanticipated questions, pushes back, and reads the text in ways unforeseen by the author. Reading against the grain is a key part of creating a strong response. Okay. Excuse me. On page 89, there's a summary of the Michael Pollan article that you're asked to read. And the margin notes on that page guide you through some useful points to see about how this author has written this summary. And notice that the whole summary is one paragraph of 227 words. And that's probably about what you're going to want to aim for as well. On page 90, there's a list of bulleted items under the heading of criteria for an effective summary incorporated into your own prose. That's the key. When you're writing your summary, you're going to want to refer to these criteria. But right above that it says, in an academic setting then, think of summaries as short, tightly written pieces that retain an author's main ideas while eliminating the supporting details. So this is your chance to clearly identify the thing that is the most important idea in the text, and then rather than telling us every little detail of how that idea is supported, you leave those things out. And that can also be a challenge. What do you include and what do you leave out? There's an activity that starts on page 90 that I'm also going to ask you to do, where you need to read and compare 3 different summaries and discuss what it is using that list on page 90 that makes one or more of them good, and what the other, if they're not good, what they do that they shouldn't do, or what they haven't done that they should do. The second part is the understanding the strong response writing, and that starts on page 92. And what we're going to do is the strong response as reflection. Okay, this starts on page 96. And it says here, among other things, a reflection is an introspective genre, looking within. It invites you to connect the reading to your own personal experiences, beliefs, and values. Okay, so you're going to have to put those 2 things together. You're going to have to give me an accurate summary that meets the criteria listed on page 90 and follows the good models that you have in the book. And then you're going to have to combine it with the second piece, which is going to be a response that's a reflection. Okay? Let me just see anything else that I want to point out in here in this chapter. Okay, so there are going to be, the other really important point is creating a thesis for what you write. And that is where you state your own main point. So there's a lot of ingredients ultimately that go into a successful summary response paper. But what I'd like to emphasize to you is that I want you to create it in these 2 parts. I want you to first tackle this whole summary idea before you try to do the response. Okay, well, for now, that's all I want to talk about. I might come back later in the week. I'm not sure yet. And if you have any questions as you go through the reading in preparation for the paper, be sure and email me. I'm sure that other people will have the same question you do, so don't be shy.